Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and should the government ban TikTok? That's a pretty interesting question. Now at least a week or two ago, I talked about TikTok basically being exposed for spying on you. Now of course, this shouldn't come as a shock to you, ladies and gentlemen. This is like basically telling you that human beings need oxygen to live. Yes, all your social media services spy on you. It's not just TikTok, it's Facebook, it's Microsoft, it's Google, it's Dailymotion, it's DeviantArt, and sometimes for a lot of people, who really cares? Now, of course, the FCC Commissioner, Brendan Carr, decided to actually talk about TikTok, into which they wrote a giant letter, well, not really that giant, all the way to two of the highest level executives, the CEO of Apple and the CEO of Google, where they said, last week, an alarming new report sheds fresh light on a serious national security threat posed by TikTok. As you know, TikTok is an app that's available to millions of Americans, and it collects vast troves of sensitive data. Yeah, like every social media service. If we're going to talk about TikTok being evil, so is Mark Zuckerberg's crappy Meta, all right? That probably spies on you way more than TikTok does. Now, of course, there's plenty of laws in America now, hopefully starting to form about data privacy protection. But it gets really hazy when a foreign country is able to siphon millions of data points for users from a different side of the country, okay? That's where it gets really spooky. Now, of course, I'm writing the two of you holding themselves out. It's clear that TikTok poses an unacceptable national security risk due to its extensive data harvesting being combined with Beijing's apparently unchecked access to that sensitive data. So last 2 weeks, we found out that TikTok basically was routing its US data to Oracle. Now, of course, just because the data stays in the United States doesn't prevent a TikTok employee from China, ByteDance, to fly over to the United States and access that data, which at that point, it doesn't really have to touch China. China can come to the data. The data don't have to go to China. You understand that? That's how it kind of works. So, of course, he even brought up some bullet points about, hey, guys, let's talk about TikTok's national security threat, which might as well be the best US buzzword I've ever seen. August 2020, TikTok circumvented a privacy safeguard in Google's Android operating systems to track users online. And what he's referring to is actually something pretty nefarious. When TikTok literally was caught, and I mean caught, actually tracking the MAC addresses of users. So for instance, anytime you downloaded, TikTok was basically violating its own privacy policy and Google's rules. So basically, they had actually found out that they were linking the new installs and tracking the device's unchangeable MAC addresses for 15 months. So basically, let's say that you deleted TikTok and you wanted to reset the ID for things like app tracking. Well, because they would know what MAC address, they would have that written down. You could download TikTok again, reset whatever you wanted. And as long as they knew the MAC address that it was installed on and if it matched to an older one, it doesn't matter. They were able to track you in the most disgusting way possible, which is always why you should randomize your MAC addresses to begin with everywhere you go and every app you feed it to. Then, of course, researchers in 2020 discovered that TikTok, through its app in the Apple App Store, was accessing users' most sensitive data, including passwords and personal messages. Now, this is a little, it's a half-truth. They're not really explaining the full story. What actually happened over here is most devices have something known as a clipboard. So every time you copy something, like if I copy like a word, like right-click copy, it goes to a clipboard. The clipboard is shared by every app down to the system level. And that clipboard basically allows every app to basically grab, copy and pasted data. So if I copy something, it goes to a clipboard, and then if I'm pasting something to an application, what the paste does is it allows the application to look into the clipboard, grab that data, and put it into its sandbox. So of course, TikTok was accessing at an unprecedented rate. Most applications were caught doing this, and the only reason this was ever caught was Apple decided to mandate a notification popping up every time to tell you when applications were accessing your clipboard, out of your user privacy and safety. A good feature, might I add. So of course, it wasn't just TikTok that was doing it, but they were the most famous ones. Then they were talking about, the whole BuzzFeed news that kicked in 2 weeks ago, and then the fact that TikTok had to settle $92 million of lawsuits just to actually, when they basically were alleged to vacuum up your data and send it over to China. Then, of course, in 2019, they paid a $5.7 million fine to the FTC in their allegations that its predecessor app illegally collected personal data on children under the age of 13, which is very, very wrong in the eyes of the United States, as it should be for anybody. Now, of course, this isn't the government forcing anything. This is just somebody sending a letter from that is a representative of the government. I think when it comes to the internet, it's the last bastion of free and open areas that we have. And, you know, in a free society like ours, I always love that we can access all points of information from all over the world, okay? We do not have a government that's restricting any of our access to any part of the internet, you know, explicitly, right? You know, even websites that choose to ban certain pieces of information on the internet, you know, for whatever reason, because it violates their TOS, nothing stops you from creating your own website and actually hosting it on a, you know, hosting service that will allow it, and basically anybody around the world can access. Some of the most dastardly websites on this entire side of the internet we can access freely without anything, you know, to assist us. Whereas in China, it gets a little bit risky. China, for those of you who don't know, is all about the Great Firewall. For those of you who don't know what the Great Firewall is, grab a hot cup of cum, because this is going to be a juicy little history lesson. In China, the entire, Great Firewall basically allows the Chinese government to monitor and control information at a mass scale. This is something that is one of the biggest censorship projects to ever exist. And there's a lot of services like Great Fire, which actually report on this anonymously from China. What these people are doing here is very dangerous. They could probably end up in a prison camp having their organs harvested at this point if they keep it up. So this is like ultimate maxed wall journalism, okay? These people are putting everything they have on the line just to bring this. So great respect to these people. So effectively, what they were doing is they showcased just what gets banned in China, for instance, right? Now, in China, if you try to access, a lot of web pages, they won't actually exist, all right? Basically, the Chinese government will not allow you to get into them because they use plenty of tools. One of them being things like DNS poisoning. For those of you who don't know what DNS poisoning is, a simple explanation could be things like basically where if you make a request to the DNS service, the Chinese government steps in, puts in a malicious request, and basically routes you to a fraudulent website, a website that they've made, or just straight up not even letting you connect to the original website. It's one of the many tools that they would employ on the Great Firewall, all right? It's a very complicated system, but the Chinese government does not want you accessing a lot of websites. For instance, they've blocked 1,249 Wikipedia pages. If you actually click down on this, you'll find out what kind of pages get blocked. So for instance, of course, 2008 Tibetan unrest, that got removed. Anti-communism got removed. Assembly language, a computer term, got removed. In fact, all the way down to the Christian page got completely removed. And then, if you want to know about something really fucking scary, well, the entire freedom page got removed. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion. You want to learn about the penis? Well, that got removed. You want to learn about Japan? That got removed. Even Jesus isn't allowed in Chinese web space. Chinese users be like, can we learn about the device we're using? No, you can't learn about a computer. What's wrong with you? You know what China also doesn't like? Dogs. Because the entire dog page got banned for some reason. Must have been something in there to immediately drive it away. Apparently, dog is censored as much as the word human rights, and also human rights in China, aka there are none. JonTron got censored? No way! What? Now, even if you go to China's Twitter, which is known as Weibo, if I look up things like Halo Infinite, oh, hell yeah, dude, I can look up all the Halo Infinite footage. Hey, look, here's some guy's actual Halo Infinite rig setup, which is pretty cool in my opinion. I actually kind of like this setup. Got the whole 117 headset, the nice little keyboard from Razer, and also, they're playing old Halo Infinite. But of course, if I just back out of this and type in Tiananmen Square, well, because Tiananmen Square is real, it's the Forbidden City, yeah, you can actually see some cool things about it. See, if I type in the word massacre, you start to see that it goes dun 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 dun. Doesn't exist, man, doesn't matter. Hey, you know that Xi Jinping guy? Well, the leader of China, let's see what him and Winnie the Pooh look like standing together. Oh no, they don't let that happen at all. Wait a minute, let's type in Falun Gong, okay? I remember learning about this in high school, and whoa, you can't learn about that in China. Get out of here. Now, even if I go on to Bilibili, which is Chinese YouTube, and I type in Tiananmen Square Massacre, oh, baby, there's like literally nothing. It never happened. Of course it didn't. What are you talking about? Now, if I type in Call of Duty, hell yeah, dude, that's a certified hood moment. Let's click on this one right here. This is the Call of Duty I remember playing, brother. God damn. Now, I remember when I played games like Call of Duty Online, well, I had to go through so many hoops and hurdles to even create an account that nowadays you're really not able to access those games anymore, partially because they've been taken down, and even the newer games that are exclusively released in China require you to have Chinese IDs or Chinese cell phone numbers in order to even access those specific games. And ladies and gentlemen, that's because the Chinese government really doesn't want you coming into their country's internet. And that's simply because if anybody was allowed to make a Weibo account, a WeChat account, any of the Chinese web services, and immediately sign on and start talking about Tiananmen Square, Taiwan, all of that shit, you'd be removed. There are keywords in this video that I've said so much that I myself may not be allowed entry into China. That's how serious it is, okay? If the Chinese allowed us to access their side of the internet, it would absolutely be destroyed by every image board just reposting Pepe's of Taiwan and freedom, if you can imagine that, okay? There would be videos uploaded every day of Winnie the Pooh and Xi Jinping having anal sex with one another. There would be so many videos. I swear to God, I'm putting my balls on the line by saying this, of people just straight up trolling the Chinese government from outside the world. And it'd be so much that the Chinese CCP could not moderate it, which is why they don't really allow us, or really any American tech company or any foreign company, from entering. Now, TikTok has already been banned by the US military for government devices, obviously. I mean, they're probably going to do it for anything. It's been banned by the Indian government. And really the question comes down to this. Should TikTok be banned? In my opinion, no. I don't believe TikTok should be banned. If we're talking about removing from the app stores, if you're going to remove TikTok, you may as well remove Facebook, Meta, any Microsoft service, YouTube, Google, whatever you want to call it. Just simply because if TikTok is capable of spying on you, all the other services do that and more. See, what it really comes down to is the United States is finally scared that, hey, we're not the only country with the massive mainstream tech companies around the world. China has stepped in and created TikTok as a massive force in the social media sphere. And this alone is enough to scare any country and disbarring access to it. What makes China scary is the laws that are hard-coded into their system and regime that allow the government direct access into that data, which is not something that you would typically see in other freer countries, even though there are federal agencies like the NSA, which may as well be known to track every single piece of data flowing into the country at any given moment. So again, when it comes to banning this, I myself am away from this. I think if you're a free country, you shouldn't ban any access to any service. And honestly, removing from the App Store, I think it's better suited that we slap a giant Surgeon General warning and basically say, if you use a social media service, you are giving up your private information. You see, we put that shit on cigarettes and people still smoke them because it's your right to. And I think if we treated the internet like that, it might actually be a much more serious and much more educating place. Because if people understood just how much of their data was thrown into the air, they might reconsider downloading some of these applications. You might be like, but Muna, I have nothing to hide. And that's true. Most people don't. Most people aren't important enough to get hacked unless they're like a president, prime minister, or like a world leader, or some massive CEO or industrialist. No, in reality, you have to really think about what this data could be used for. Think about what happens when a foreign country has access to the entire US data system, not the entire, but generally millions upon millions of users and their daily lives. If any system can peek onto that, they may be able to affect their algorithms, which is what most social media services are about, whether you be on TikTok, YouTube, or whatever. A lot of these platforms feed you content based on an algorithm. They feed you what you want to see. And it's very technically possible to alter those algorithms to feed you content that those specific governments or companies want you to focus on. If a government or organization is more left or right leaning, they may choose to basically feed content that would feed into their political spectrums, their ideology. In fact, at certain points, they could even limit access to actual information and prevent you from seeing it on grounds of whatever they really wanted to. Of course, it even gets to the point where if they have enough information, they may be able to alternate or basically, change the outcomes of things like massive elections, which is something that we've talked about for the last 2 US elections in general. It's a scary world indeed when it turns about how much data is floated around and how much of that data, when collected together, can be used for truly nefarious reasons. Should TikTok be banned? Absolutely not. Should there be a giant warning slapped onto it? Absolutely. Just like many other social media services, even the one that you're using right now to watch this video. Ladies and gentlemen, the world can be a scary place, but if you know anything about data privacy, you'll probably also know how to prevent all of your data from being siphoned away from you. Listen, protecting yourself 99% of the way is better than 0%, okay? Think about it like a condom, okay? Basically what you're doing is you're getting as much protection as you possibly reasonably can. So again, before I divert any further from that, TikTok shouldn't really be banned. The government, I think, wants to consider banning it. And if you're going to call yourself the freest government in the world, I don't think you should ban it even for national security reasons. But what you should do is absolutely make it mandatory to educate the actual person on where their data is flowing to and how it can actually be used in a nefarious way. Ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mudahar, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it. If you dislike it, I am out.